ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about something that's not just happening quietly. It's becoming a quiet epidemic. The title of this message is Why So Many Men Over 50 Are Quietly Choosing to Stay Single. The Real Reasons. And I want you to lean in, because what I'm about to say might just shake you, wake you, or break you out of that comfort zone you've been hiding in. This isn't about judgment. This is about revelation. There comes a point in a man's life where the applause no longer excites him, where the spotlight no longer seduces him, and where external validation loses its grip. That point, often arriving around or after the age of 50, is when he begins to realize that peace is the new power. Not a passive, lazy kind of peace. No, this is a peace that was earned through storms, through scars, through years of showing up for everyone else while quietly abandoning himself. It's not that he gave up on life or love. It's that he finally stopped giving in to the demands of a world that mistook his value for how much he could tolerate. Let's be honest. Many men spend their early decades performing at work, performing in relationships, performing as providers, protectors, fixers. And for many, that performance goes unrewarded. The stronger he appears, the more people expect from him. The quieter he is, the more people project onto him. But eventually, he reaches that pivotal shift where the internal becomes louder than the external, where he no longer needs to explain why he's not chasing attention, not engaging drama, not entertaining chaos. Because he has learned the hard way that peace isn't passive, it's intentional. It's not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. People might not understand it. Friends might pull back. Family may question him. But this man, he's no longer trying to be understood. He's not looking for everyone to clap when he enters a room. He's looking for alignment when he sits with himself. And let me tell you something. When a man becomes addicted to peace, he becomes immune to manipulation. You can't guilt him into staying in places where he doesn't grow. You can't shame him into engaging conversations that rob him of dignity. He's not trying to win every argument. He's trying to protect his energy, his time, and his destiny. This kind of peace, this internal power, it doesn't happen by accident. It's not found in motivational quotes or temporary solitude. It's the result of years of making everyone else the priority and realizing that burnout doesn't reward loyalty. It's forged in disappointment and refined in isolation. It's found when a man finally asks, "What do I need?" and then has the courage to answer it honestly without apology. And here's the hook that shocks most people. He's happier now. Happier being single, being selective, being silent. Not because he's cold, not because he's broken, but because he's healed enough to protect what he's built. You see, there's power in walking away from things that don't serve your peace. There's strength in saying no to things that used to enslave you emotionally. This isn't retreat. This is elevation. This isn't bitterness. This is boundaries. Let them whisper about him. Let them assume he's lonely. Let them misinterpret his silence. What they don't know is that this silence is sacred. It's where strategies are born. It's where strength is restored. It's where vision sharpens and purpose awakens. And when he does speak, it's with authority, not anxiety. When he does engage, it's with direction, not desperation. Because now, peace isn't something he visits, it's where he lives. So when you see a man over 50 choosing peace over performance, understand you're not looking at weakness. You're looking at someone who has fought enough battles to finally know that the greatest victory isn't in conquering others, it's in mastering himself. Experience is not a weight that holds a man down, it's the foundation he stands on. When a man crosses into his 50s, what some call baggage, he now calls blueprint. Every scar he carries, every lesson he learned the hard way, every door that slammed in his face, those weren't setbacks, they were specifications for the architecture of his future. He no longer sees pain as punishment. He sees it as preparation. Because when you've been through enough fire and you're still standing, you stop being afraid of the flame, you learn how to walk through it. There's something powerful that happens when a man has seen both the beauty and brutality of life. He develops an instinct that can't be taught in books or bought in courses. He no longer chases every opportunity or entertains every person. He doesn't need a crowd to feel valid or noise to feel alive. Why? Because his experience has taught him that not everything that glitters is gold, and not everyone who praises you is for you. That's wisdom. And it didn't come cheap. It was purchased through heartbreak, through betrayal, through moments where he gave his best and was met with silence, or worse, disrespect. People often wonder why he moves differently now, why he's slower to speak, quicker to observe, less eager to prove himself. It's because he's already played that game. He's already run that race. He has nothing left to prove to people who never truly saw him. That doesn't mean he's bitter. It means he's built. And you don't rebuild the same way twice. Now, every relationship is intentional. Every commitment is filtered through discernment. He doesn't just ask, does this feel good? He asks, does this fit the life I'm building? He's not just chasing connection. He's protecting construction. And here's where the shift becomes undeniable. He begins to realize that his past wasn't punishment. It was a personalized curriculum. He understands now that every season taught him something. That toxic relationship taught him his worth. That business failure taught him the power of resilience. That lonely season taught him how to hear his own voice. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Everything was raw material for who he is now. And because he knows how costly those lessons were, he no longer throws his time, his love, or his vision into places that can't handle the weight of who he is. This is why you can't guilt him into going back. You can't shame him into tolerating what he outgrew. He's not scared of walking alone. He's scared of walking in the wrong direction. And if it means fewer people around him, so be it. He'd rather walk with clarity than live in confusion. Because now he knows that experience is more than just what happened to him. It's what changed in him. He's not looking for sympathy. He's looking for synergy. Not looking for crowds, looking for alignment. What people call isolation, he calls focus. What others call midlife crisis, he calls midlife clarity. Because for the first time, he's not trying to be who others expected him to be. He's becoming who he was designed to be. And he's using every piece of his past, not to relive it, but to rise from it. That's the power of a man who understands that his story wasn't just survival, it was strategy. And now, every step he takes forward is backed by the full weight of his experience, not held back by it. So if you see a man moving with less noise but more certainty, don't mistake that for confusion. That's a man who's finally living by blueprint, not by impulse. That's a man who's done performing and started building. With the tools life gave him, one lesson at a time. There is a dangerous myth floating around that if a man doesn't commit after a certain age, he's afraid of commitment. But the truth is far more complex and far more liberating. Men over 50 aren't afraid to commit. They're just no longer willing to commit to what isn't aligned. That's not fear. That's wisdom. That's clarity. That's the kind of discernment that only comes after you've been through seasons where you committed with your heart, but compromised with your soul. And when a man has lived long enough to realize that commitment without alignment is a recipe for slow destruction, he begins to choose with precision, not pressure. When a man is younger, he's often told to be strong, stable, and committed. And many men did exactly that. They committed to people, places, and paths that drained them, not because they were weak, but because they were taught that loyalty was the highest virtue, even when it hurt. So they stayed in relationships that suffocated their vision. They stayed at jobs that underpaid their value. They remained emotionally unavailable to themselves, all while being endlessly available to everyone else. And by the time they reach 50, many of them are no longer looking for commitment. They're looking for congruency. They're asking, does this match who I am now? Does this elevate where I'm going? Does this protect my peace and honor my purpose? When a man has evolved through experience, he no longer sees commitment as a trophy. It's a sacred transaction. He doesn't hand it out casually, because now he knows that what he commits to either builds his future or buries his potential. So he steps back, he observes, he questions. Not because he's unsure, but because he's finally learned to stop making permanent choices based on temporary emotions. He no longer gets pulled into the urgency of someone else's clock. He's not in a rush, because he's no longer proving anything. He's protecting everything. And here's the truth that shakes people. He would rather be alone in alignment than entangled in chaos. He would rather walk alone with vision than walk with someone who constantly questions his direction. He doesn't need a warm body beside him at night if it means waking up with confusion in the morning. That's not pride. That's maturity. That's a man who understands that emotional security is not found in proximity, but in purpose. What many people don't see is the internal battles he's already fought. The nights he sat in silence, wondering if sacrificing his peace for the comfort of companionship was worth it. The times he smiled publicly while crumbling privately. The years he gave his energy to people who loved what he did for them, but never truly saw him. And now he's done playing that game. He doesn't hate relationships. He just refuses to enter one that costs him his identity. This man isn't avoiding love. He's demanding alignment. He wants someone who understands the rhythm of his life, not someone who interrupts it. He wants partnership, not pressure. He wants peace, not performance. He wants purpose, not pretending. And he's willing to wait, because he's no longer in a season of trial and error. He's in a season of building. He's not exploring, he's executing. And only what aligns with that mission has access. So if you see a man who isn't quick to commit, don't mislabel him. He's not broken. He's not confused. He's not bitter. He's simply not willing to commit to anything that isn't spiritually, emotionally, and mentally aligned with who he has become. That's not a weakness. That's a filter, a boundary, a line in the sand drawn by a man who finally values his own life enough to only give it where it can multiply, not where it will be minimized. Solitude, to the untrained eye, looks like loneliness. But to a man who has lived, lost, and learned, solitude becomes a strategy. It becomes a place of alignment, a sanctuary for clarity, a weapon against distraction. When a man crosses into his 50s, he doesn't avoid the noise because he's tired. He avoids it because he's tuned in. The world calls it isolation, but he calls it incubation. It's in that silence that strategies are born, not in the chaos of shallow conversations or meaningless movement. He no longer needs to be surrounded to feel supported. He's not counting the number of voices around him. He's listening for the voice within. There's a major difference between being alone and being disconnected. This man isn't disconnected. He's deeply connected, but not to the noise. He's connected to his values, his vision, and his voice. He's spent enough years giving his energy to people who couldn't understand his depth. Now, he protects that energy like it's currency, because it is. His solitude isn't an escape, it's a strategy. He's not hiding, he's healing. He's not distant, he's disciplined. And that discipline allows him to build from the inside out, not the outside in. People might question why he no longer entertains every phone call, attends every event, or responds to every message. But what they don't realize is that he's building something. And real builders don't construct anything solid in crowds. They build it in quiet. In solitude, his mind sharpens, his priorities reorder, his boundaries firm up. He isn't distracted by opinions. He's directed by conviction. He's not looking for noise to drown his thoughts. He's looking for stillness to hear them clearly. This is what makes him different now. He understands that solitude is where God whispers direction. It's where peace flows freely. It's where decisions are made without emotional distortion. He's not pulling back from people because he's antisocial. He's pulling away from chaos because he's intentional. He's realized that growth doesn't come from being surrounded. It comes from being centered. That centeredness can't be found in superficial interactions. It can only be cultivated in stillness. And here's the hook that catches everyone off guard. His solitude has made him stronger than he's ever been. Stronger mentally, stronger spiritually, stronger emotionally. He doesn't need noise to feel alive anymore. He doesn't need approval to feel successful. He doesn't need a crowd to feel relevant. He's built a relationship with himself that's so grounded, so rooted in truth, that temporary companionship or surface level attention no longer interests him. He's not bored, he's busy becoming. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes rebellion. In a culture that glorifies visibility, invisibility becomes power. And this man has embraced both. He knows the value of not being easily accessible, not being constantly available, not being everywhere for everyone, because now his presence is purposeful. His time is not casual. His attention is an investment, and he no longer places it where there is no return. What people once mistook for loneliness is now the very reason for his clarity. He's not reactive anymore. He's responsive. He's not consumed by distractions. He's led by direction. He doesn't speak just to be heard. He speaks to make impact. His solitude has transformed into a launch pad for legacy, not a prison of isolation. And that transformation didn't happen overnight. It came from choosing silence over stimulation, reflection over reaction, purpose over popularity. This is what sets him apart. This is why he walks slower, thinks deeper, and moves quieter. Because while others are running after attention, he's walking toward destiny. And that walk requires solitude. Not forever, but for now. Not because he needs to escape, but because he's ready to elevate. And that kind of elevation, it never happens in noise. It happens in the quiet spaces where only the committed dare to go. Love isn't something he's walked away from. It's something he's redefined. At this stage in life, a man over 50 is not rejecting love. He's just no longer willing to settle for a version of it that feels more like a transaction than a connection. He has been through enough to know the difference between being chosen for convenience and being valued for who he truly is. He's no longer interested in romantic performances that mask emotional immaturity. He wants something deeper, more rooted, more real. He wants love that multiplies, not love that manipulates. And that's why he's become so selective. He's not interested in proving himself to someone who doesn't understand his calling. He's not trying to impress anyone who doesn't respect his scars. At this point in his life, Love must come with peace or it can't stay. It must come with purpose or it won't last. He doesn't want a partner just to escape loneliness. He wants someone who understands solitude. He doesn't need someone to fill a void. He needs someone who respects the space he's already filled with vision, healing, and maturity. That's not being picky. That's protecting progress. In his earlier years, love might have been about chemistry, charm, or convenience. But now it's about consistency. It's not enough to be attracted to each other. There must be alignment in values, rhythm in priorities, and trust in silence. He no longer romanticizes dysfunction or tolerates emotional volatility. He knows now that peace is the prerequisite, not a bonus. He knows that true love doesn't feel like walking on eggshells. It feels like breathing. It feels like rest. And here's the hook that most don't understand. He is ready to love, but he's even more ready to walk away from anything that disturbs his growth. He won't be guilted into staying somewhere that drains him. He won't be shamed for not entertaining people who don't understand his boundaries. He's not afraid of being misunderstood because he's finally clear on what he will and won't accept. This is a man who knows his worth, and with that knowledge comes a new kind of discipline. What some label as coldness is really clarity. What others call guarded is actually grounded. He's not unavailable, he's just unwilling to be used. And that's the difference. He's not bitter, he's just built now. He's invested years in unlearning toxic patterns, healing from old wounds, and reconstructing the foundation of who he is. So no, he's not rushing into the next available connection. He's waiting on what's right. He's not choosing silence because he's lonely. He's choosing it because he knows how much it costs to find his voice. He understands now that real love doesn't disrupt his peace. It deepens it. Real love doesn't demand sacrifice of his purpose. It supports it. Real love doesn't ask him to shrink. It celebrates his fullness. And if that kind of love doesn't come easily, he's willing to wait. He would rather remain single in truth than be committed in confusion. He would rather protect his purpose than share it with someone who can't carry it. What others see as withdrawal is really wisdom. He's not closed off, he's just clear. He's not skeptical, he's discerning. He knows that true connection doesn't beg to be chased. It aligns. It flows. It edifies. He's not chasing fireworks anymore. He's building a fire that lasts. Something slow burning. Something stable. Something sacred. And until he finds that, or until it finds him, he's not afraid to stand alone. Because standing alone in wholeness is far better than lying beside someone in emotional pieces. He knows what love should feel like now. He knows what it should cost, and more importantly, what it should never cost, his identity, his clarity, his peace. And that knowledge is what makes him powerful, even in patience. Legacy means more to him now than company. He's not driven by loneliness. He's driven by the weight of what he wants to leave behind. The man over 50 isn't silent because he's lost. He's silent because he's focused. Every moment he spends now is calculated. Every conversation, every decision, every move is filtered through a question he never asked in his 30s. Does this contribute to the legacy I'm building, or does it distract me from it? He's not avoiding life. He's engineering it. He's not retreating from relationships. He's advancing into a season of intentionality. And what fuels him is not attention, validation, or short-lived romance. It's impact. He's not trying to impress anymore. He's trying to invest in ideas, in future generations, in systems that outlive him. He's seen what happens when men waste decades chasing temporary highs. He's done with that. The thrill is gone, And now he's after substance. He's no longer concerned with being remembered for how loud he was in the room. He wants to be remembered for what he built when nobody was watching. That's the difference. He's not chasing applause. He's laying bricks. And each brick is a habit, a standard, a principle, a truth. Because when the light